Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to On the Stoop with Suave. This week's special guest, you've seen him on Clubkiller's Tech Talk. Make some noise, y'all, for DJ Ikon.
Yo, what's going on?
What's happening?
I like the applause.
I try to show love. How you doing, man?
Good.
It's kind of early today for a DJ anyway.
You should just ask Kid Conrad. If he's, what is it? It's 2 p.m.
Oh, man. Before we get started, I want to go ahead and find out, where can the people find you and where can the people connect with you as they're watching this?
Yeah, so you can find me at www.djicon.net. My Instagram is at DJ Ikon. I'm not really on any other social platforms. Or you can go to www.blackoutartist.com.
And that's Ikon with a K, correct?
Ikon with a K. Yep, IK1.
All right, so so now as y'all are listening and listening along, y'all know where to go. Vegas. How long have you lived out here?
18 years. 18 years. Grew up in Lake Tahoe, then went to college in Reno at UNR, and then moved out here when I was 24.
What's UNR?
University of Nevada, Reno.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Let's just get right into it. You know,
all right, let's do it.
People want to hear it. How long you been DJing?
20 years. Yeah, started when I was 18.
How'd you get started?
It's kind of funny. So when I lived in Tahoe, we used to go to all these like ski and like snowboard competitions. And when we go there, there'd always be these like DJ battles or these underground DJs. And when I was like 15 or 16, I was like, oh man, I want to do that. Like I was super big into underground hip hop, and I was like, man, that's what I want to do. But we didn't have any record stores where I grew up. I had no access to like turntables, or I mean, the very first time I ever touched a turntable was I grabbed my dad's and set it up, and I broke it. Like he came home and he was so mad. But then when I was 18, I graduated college or high school, went down to Reno, and my very first job down there was at this retail place called Planet DJ.
Okay. And
it was like owned and operated by these battle DJs, and I was like, oh, this is like my dream job, right? So I just got a job working in their warehouse, and yeah, like that's kind of how I got started.
Okay. What was your first setup?
So I went and I bought a pair of these purple Gemini like belt drive turntables. And at the time, like I didn't know any better, right? I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then I got a Newmark like 8-channel mixer, the one that had the little like sampler thing on it, at a pawn shop for like, I don't know, $50. And yeah, I'm like a broke college kid. Yeah. So I went and like I set it up, and at this point the only reference to DJing I had were like battle videos that I bought, like the DMC videos, and then stuff that I had seen at like these like ski competitions and whatnot. So, you know, I wish I had a video of me, because I'm in there with like these belt drive things, and they're just bouncing around, and the mixer like at the time didn't work, but I didn't know it didn't work. So like I'm in there and like the crossfader doesn't really work, but I didn't know that. And so I'm in there like trying to do these things, and it must have been so funny.
Wait, they sold you a broke mixer at the pawn shop?
Yeah, it didn't even work. I ended up, once I got the job at Planet DJ, I took it in there and I was like, guys, you know, and then all these real battle DJs, like, they were like kind of laughing, but it was all part of it, you know, like they were like, man, like, you know, this isn't what you need. And then I got set up right, but yeah, I ended up having to take it back, and then, you know, come to find out like these Gemini tables, like you couldn't even look at these things without the record bouncing. Like they were so terrible. Yeah. But, you know, it's all part of it. You know, live and learn.
The learning curve.
Yeah.
So you get the job, you get you some equipment.
Yep.
What happens then?
So then I really wanted to be a battle DJ. Like that was my thing. So for like a year, I just like was just like a sponge, right? I would just like go to work, and these guys would always be like cutting and stuff like on their breaks, and I just kind of like really like immersed myself in that, and bought every video I could, watched, you know, hours and hours and hours of like DMC and ITF and all these like, you know, different videos, and I really wanted to do that. But come to find out, I'm terrible at it. Oh. So after like a year, I entered a DJ battle, and I just got smoked. Like it was so embarrassing. But at the time, you know, I didn't know any better. And so I was like, yeah, totally ready to do this. And like, I was so excited. And then I just went and saw some like real battle DJs. And then I was like, but at that time I was still like really into it. That's still really what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. kind of like the evolution of that was while I was in college, got asked to do some like house parties and that kind of thing. So started doing that. And then one of my friends worked for a frat and he was like, hey, come DJ our frat party. So I did that. And then I just kind of kept like growing my reputation a little bit in Reno. And then the very first nightclub gig I ever did was this guy EJ, who was kind of he was like the biggest DJ in Reno. He contacted me and was like, hey man, come out. I want to see you play. I've been hearing about you, whatever. So, I showed up to this nightclub and I was so excited, and he puts me on and I literally played every big song. Like I mixed as quick as I could for like 10 minutes, and he like runs up and he's like, what are you doing? He like kicks me off, and I was like, and I just didn't understand, right? Like I wasn't even 21 yet, hadn't even been to a nightclub. So we ended up becoming like really good friends, and he like gave me my first like nightclub kind of residency thing, and yeah, I just kind of went from there. Yeah. So grand aspirations of being a battle DJ, but
So how'd you end up in Vegas?
So while I was working in Reno, we started like the club I worked at with EJ. EJ went from like DJ to promoter, and then he started booking some Vegas DJs. So the very first guy that we ever brought up was DJ Hollywood. So we brought him up to Reno, and then we just developed this like really good relationship. My very first trip ever out to Vegas, I came and stayed with him, and that was right when Rain opened up at the Palms, like 15 years ago, whatever. So came to Vegas, staying at his house. We went to Rain, and I was like, oh my God, it like blew my mind, right? Like coming from Reno, we had nothing. There's fire shooting from the ceiling, and like this place is huge. And at that time, the Palm was like the biggest thing, right? Like the Real World was there. It was like the first season, and it was like talking about it. And I was like, oh my God, like this is what I want. This is what I want to do. So we just kept becoming better and better friends. And then in 2004, he called me up and was like, hey, there's this DJ battle. The winner gets a residency at what turned into Pure. So with that company. So he's like, I want you to come down. You'll be the only guy from out of town, but I want you to do it. So I was like, yeah, cool. So I came down and I ended up winning it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was really cool. It was really cool. So it was like a nightclub battle, not like a battle, right? But like party rock kind of stuff. And then that company like made me an offer. They were like, hey, we're going to move you down to Vegas. So ended up moving down here, had a job for me, like as a resident. So it really kind of made like that whole process like way easier. So came down here, moved in with Hollywood, lived with him for a couple years, and yeah, that's kind of how it went. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, super cool.
Nice. Going back to when you said you initially started with learning on just the videos that you had, compare that time where all you had was those DMC battles versus now kids can Google anything. The purist will say the new kids aren't real DJs because they didn't go through the struggle. But the new kids, and I'm one of the new kids, will say, well, there's technology. We're using our resources the same way that you guys used resources you had at that
100%.
time. How do you feel about that?
So I'm definitely like, I'm not against. My whole thing is if you're DJing and you're having fun being a DJ, that's what it's about. It doesn't matter how you do it or what you do it. If you're out DJing at a club and you're using some controller and everybody's dancing, cool, awesome. If you're having fun and they're having fun, and whatever you want to do to get there, it's cool with me. You're not affecting me at all. You know what I mean? I definitely understand the like purist thing. Yeah, it was like harder for me back in the day. We had to go to record stores and we had to do all these things, but the game was different, right? It was a totally different animal back in the day.
Right.
I don't knock anybody that's coming up now. I like you said, like it's the evolution of where it's going. So you can either fight that, but that's a losing battle. And I like all the technology. I'm into it. I think it's given access to a lot more people, which has grown the industry. And some may say that was to the detriment of the industry, and some may say that was for the benefit of it. I'm not. I can only give you my point of view on it,
Right.
but I think that overall it's been great. And where I was 10 years ago versus where I'm at now, I'm in a much better place now. And I would have to say technology played a big part in that, you know?
Nice. All right, so let's go back. I wanted to ask that before we got too far. All right, so now here we are. We're in Vegas. We're doing it up. We got residencies. How do you expand the brand? Like, how do we go from one venue to multiples? Like,
so back in the day in Vegas, the way that it would work when I first come down here is you would get hired to a specific company, and you would sign a contract with that company, and you weren't allowed to play anywhere else in Vegas. So for me, the step was if I wanted to grow the brand, you had to travel. And at that time, like everybody in Vegas was bringing LA DJs in, like that was the move. But then Vegas guys were going all over, like, in 2004, it was like Hollywood and ROB. And this was like right when I think Five had just turned like 23 or 24. So he was, becoming like a really well-known Vegas guy, within the country and whatnot. And so I saw these guys playing a lot, like in Chicago and Miami and all these other spots. And so I realized, like, right then that, like, that was the move. I wanted to be a traveling DJ. Like, I'd go travel with these guys, and it was like super fun, right? Like, I'm young, we're seeing the country. I was like, man, this is awesome. So for me, it was like you could grow within the company you were at in Vegas, or you could try to like make a move and go to a different company. But that was really hard because back then the contracts were pretty like ironclad. Like you had like 6 month no competes, and so basically you were like, if you want to jump ship, you can't work in Vegas for 6 months. Wow. And that's like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So, the only thing to do was to try to go and travel. So I would just meet as many people as I could that came to Vegas, because lots of people were coming to Vegas, especially when Pure opened up, right? That was like kind of like a game changer for the whole DJ industry, right? And I would just meet all these people and just kind of network and hang out and party. And it was a slow process, though. This wasn't like overnight all of a sudden I was like playing these cities. This was like 5 to 10 years of slowly up until I would say a few years ago where, all of a sudden it was like every market, we were playing in, which was really cool.
Makes sense. Now, what was so special about Pure and like Rain back in the day?
So those were kind of the very first nightclubs. Like there had always been, there's always been big nightclubs, right? You had like Studio 54 and other markets had like big nightclubs, right? What was different is that one, you had like Rain, for instance. Rain was the first like TV publicized mega club where people from all over the world were like, oh my God, I want to go see Rain. And it was like a paradigm shift almost for like the industry, right? Like all of a sudden you had casinos backing nightclubs, and casinos have, exponentially more amount of money than just a nightclub owner in some market, right?
Right.
So they had access to just crazy amounts of marketing and budgets to do massive build outs and massive talent. And, for the club at the time, like for a normal club to book Tiesto, for instance, and bring him over from Europe was really rare, right? And all of a sudden you had these clubs that were like, yeah, whatever, no big deal. Let's do it. It's going to bring us gamblers and it's going to bring us hotel guests. And they were looking at it in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. And then when Pure opened up, Pure took the celebrity talent route. So, the first night they had Britney Spears, and I mean, I had never seen anything like it. Like you had, 10,000 people show up to a nightclub, and it literally closed down the casino for a couple hours because you had this brand new club and you brought Britney Spears at her prime, and people just weren't doing that. They had paid her like $200,000. It was something like that
to perform or just show up.
No, just to show up.
Just to
show up. Yeah, this was just to like host the night, and at the time, like that was completely unfathomable to other people. Like, how can you even recoup the cost? But they went into it with like, well, if we do Britney Spears tonight for $200, and let's say the club only makes $200. Well, that's fine, because now we've, everybody is going to want to come to this club moving forward, and it worked. So you had these like big celebrity DJs, and, they weren't the first people to do bottle sales, but they were the first people to streamline the process, to make it super, super, where if you had the money, you wanted the real estate of the table, and they made the experience of it, like you wanted to do that. You were willing to spend the money. You were willing to go get 10 of your friends to all pitch in $200 because you wanted a table to go see that, right? And that just kind of opened the doors for other casinos to see what was going on, and other, your Tao groups and these other places to come in and take that same model and, refine it. And it was crazy. It was just a big shift in like the whole way the nightclub industry worked.
Wow. Okay. So now let's fast forward a little bit. You're in your first contract, but you're not with that agency, that company anymore.
No.
Different. Now you're within somebody. Now, was there with your current agency and was there steps in between?
So, when you mean agency, you mean like Blackout?
Yeah.
So the Blackout wasn't even there yet. So this was just just me kind of by myself. And so basically what happened was I had signed like a deal with Pure Group. Pure Group got bought out by a different company that effectively terminated my contract. And then I kind of found myself in this like gray area where like the new company hadn't asked me to like re-sign a contract. And I was like, cool. And then at that time, like the Palms had built their second tower, and they were opening up this club called Moon and Playboy Club. Right. So the music director over there is this guy named ROB, and he was like, hey, I want to bring you on for some shifts. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. They didn't ask me to sign a contract, and neither did this other company. So I kind of found myself in this position where I was no longer under contract, and I was just kind of flying under the radar. I wasn't doing the like super, super crazy Saturday night primetime shifts. So I didn't have a lot of eyes on me. Gotcha. And I was, everybody was telling me like, that's the best place to be in. They were like, yo man, like you're in a perfect spot. No one's really like paying attention. Not that they're not paying attention to you, but nobody's coming into the office on Monday and being like, yo, why isn't Ikon under a contract? And so I was like, okay, cool. So I was just able to kind of like work myself into like 3 or 4 different like management groups and work like 1 or 2 shifts a week or a month or whatever. And I was able to fill my calendar that way. And that gave me a ton more contacts. And it was at that time that we kind of like started going down the path of Blackout. Okay. And I had worked for a company called Light Group. They're the ones that own like Light Nightclub and Haze and whatnot. One of the marketing directors there for this pool, Bear, is named Klika Mokwin, and she's the owner of Blackout now. So, I contacted her and I was like, hey, I really want to start this agency. What do you think about running it? And originally it was me, her, and DJ Karma. We were like the 3 people that started it. And she was like, yeah, she's like, I'm all about it. And at this time, like Scam had become like a really big thing for open format. Like everybody wanted to be on Scam, and it was like Vice and, all these guys, and it was like a huge thing. So we were like, there's definitely some like credit there to having an agency. Let's start it. And then it just kind of one thing led to another. And then, and then 8 years later now, Blackout's like a pretty cool agency. It's definitely one of the best ones, I think. Well, it is the best, but
I think you're a little bit biased.
Yeah.
So now we're Blackout. We're in Vegas 20 years.
Yeah.
What keeps you DJing?
So, a few things. One, it's my job. Obviously, I have a family. So supporting my family is obviously like a really big thing. But DJing is my passion. It's always been my passion. I love DJing. I love the DJ culture. The friends that I've made, the relationships that I've made being a DJ. I've got to see the world over a couple times now from DJing. And the longer that I've been a DJ, and the more, first it was like I looked up to a bunch of guys, and then I kind of was at this spot where it was like I wouldn't say like I was a mentor to other people, but I would kind of like, I wasn't necessarily like asking other guys for advice anymore, right? I was like at this level, and I was having a lot of fun. And then now I've kind of developed into more of a mentor role for the next generation, and I have a lot of friends that I meet with all the time, and that's been really that's really kept me like engaged in the community, because I really find that I love it. Like I love that mentor role that I've kind of, and then obviously doing stuff with like Clubkillers and whatnot, like that keeps me really engage in the community and have like a lot of really fun projects that I get to work on. And I think things like that are really what keep me involved with it.
Nice. All right. Let's play a game.
I love games.
All right.
The Game of Thrones?
I've never seen an episode of that.
What?
Shit, man. Dude, something
Blasphemy, get out.
Dude,
get out.
Something about flying dragons and shit like that just doesn't do
Listen, I don't want to fight you, bro. I don't want to fight you.
All right, man. Let's play a game. We're going to call this game Rapid Fire. All right. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You give me the first answer that comes to mind. All right. You ready?
Yep. Let's do it.
Here we go. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Funny, approachable, and oh man, I don't know what the third one is. I guess nice. I guess I don't know. Everybody says I'm a nice guy. So
if you could have any superpowers, what would they be?
Oh, you know what? We talk about this all the time. So I would have always said flight, but then my friend, she's like, no, teleportation would be the best because you could just teleport wherever you want it instantly instead of having to fly there. And I was like, you know what? I like that. So I'm gonna say teleportation.
Nice. That does make sense. If your life was a movie, what would it be called?
Boogie Nights. No, I'm just kidding. Man,
it's not a bad title though.
Yeah.
Your favorite sneaker of all time?
Oh, the Cause, or the Jordan 1s. One of those two. Yeah.
Okay. What's something you wish you were really good at?
Ooh, scratching. Super easy. No matter how much I practice. Actually, I used to say bead juggling. I can scratch a little bit, but bead juggling, the concept, no matter after 20 years, it just mystifies me. Outside of just you like super basic things, I just like I watch some of these guys. I'm like, what are you doing right now? I don't understand. I don't know how much I Google this. It just doesn't work.
All right. If your name wasn't Ikon, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. Man, you're putting me on the spot. Yeah, I went through a bunch of names. I was really into like smoking weed when I picked a name, and so I was going to be DJ Doja, but thank God my friend stepped in and vetoed that because that's such a terrible name. Oh man, I don't know. Mr. Nice Guy? I don't know.
Another weed reference. Okay. Only people who have seen Half Baked caught that. All right. What's your zodiac sign?
Capricorn. And just so you know, I know nothing about that.
Okay.
Outside of that.
Is it ever okay to double dip at a party?
Like double dip the chips? Well, see, this is my take on it. I think it's okay if you dip one side and then you turn it around and you can dip the clean side. I'm okay with that. But if it enters your mouth, no.
All right. What is your one favorite item of clothing?
Oh, I would have to say my the very first feature shirt that we ever made. That is my favorite piece of clothing, and I still have it hanging in my closet.
Nice. The worst job you've ever had?
Oh, I have 2 worst jobs that are equally as terrible. I was a loader for UPS, which is when you go in and they load the trucks, and I don't know what people think happens, but you basically go in this super hot, nasty warehouse, and packages come down this conveyor belt, and it's you and another person, and you have to load the packages as fast as you can, and you have to like scan each one to make sure it's going to the right destination, load it in a certain way, and you got these like warehouse managers that come through and like they just like yell at you like faster, 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 and it's like the hardest work you can possibly imagine, and you work in like 6-hour shifts, and it's so brutal.
Damn.
That was that, and then I built fences for a summer in Reno, and that was a terrible job because the ground is super rocky, and so you're just sitting there like basically just with a sledgehammer, just chiseling
Beating rocks.
day after day after day. That was the worst job ever.
Toilet paper roll, up or down?
Up. I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna say up.
We pull it from the up or I don't know.
Oh, no, down. I'm a downer.
Gotcha.
I'm a downer.
All right. The last song you Shazammed.
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I don't use Shazam very often. Probably, I usually bust out Shazam when I'm at like some like really ghetto parties and I see some songs working and I'm like, I have no idea what this is. So I'll Shazam it. And I used to have an iWatch and you could have Shazam on your watch. And so because you don't want to be that guy at the party that's like looking around. So I'd like do it on my watch. Probably some ghetto song that was hot for a week and then that'd be it. Yeah.
All right. Your favorite city to DJ outside of Vegas?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I've had a few cities that like I've had great relationships with like over the years. Seattle was the first city that like I like really developed like I would say somewhat of like a following up there. And I spent years going up there and I just loved the people up there and it was super fun. Chicago for sure. San Diego is another one. And yeah, I'd probably say those ones. Oh, Boston too. I love Boston. Boston's so fun. And I just love the city. It's like, I'm a huge history buff and oh man, I love Boston.
I actually just got back from Boston. It's expensive as fuck.
Yes.
Like it's probably the second most expensive city I've traveled to outside of San Francisco. And funny you said history. I was pissed. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. We preserve all our historic shit. And I just went to Philly for the Red Bull 3 style. And they did a decent job of preserving stuff. And then I go to Boston and I'm like, this is it? Like, y'all built around the whole thing. And it's like.
It's definitely not the same as like when you go to Philly and they have, it's definitely, but I really like the city. Oh, San Francisco is another one. I had to put it first on the list. Spent years in San Francisco and it's just such a cool city.
All right, here we go. Texting or talking?
Oh, I'm a talker for sure. To the detriment of all my friends, I'm a talker.
Fill in the blank. Ariana Grande is
smoking hot.
Coffee or energy drinks?
Oh, coffee all the way. I hate energy drinks, but I drink a couple cups of coffee a day.
Nice. Your favorite Kardashian?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I've met Rob, Chloe, Courtney, and Kim, and I've like a few times. Chloe and Courtney were some of the nicest people I've met. Like they were so cool, and I actually got to spend a little bit of time with Courtney and Chloe, and like they were just so awesome. Like so awesome. My interaction with Kim was like pretty brief, and she seemed really nice. Like she was really cool. Mm-hmm. Rob, like this was like years ago, when he was like doing like a lot of like nightclub dates and whatnot, and so I did a bunch of things with him, and he was also super cool. Like, but I would probably, if I had to just pick one, it'd probably be Chloe. She was just so cool, so much fun, and we had like just a great time.
Maybe it's a Blackout thing because Conrad said the same thing.
Yeah, she's so cool. So cool.
Okay. Is it wrong for vegetarians to eat animal crackers?
No.
If you died and God said you can take one CD to heaven to listen to for life, what CD do you take?
Pulp Fiction soundtrack, maybe. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 soundtrack, maybe. My favorite hip-hop album is Rakim, the 18th Letter. So maybe that, or Tribe's first album. Man, that's a tough one. Probably the Pulp Fiction soundtrack if I had to just pick one.
Pulp Fiction soundtrack.
Yeah.
All right. Turntables or CDJs?
Well, I love turntables. I use CDJs now, but that was more of a result of a couple years ago when they stopped making turntables. A lot of the clubs I played at, you couldn't use, like, it wasn't even an option to use turntables. So they were like, all we have are CDJs and, these big DJ booths built on this, like, big bass cabinets and whatnot. Like, it wasn't even an option. Now that the face controllers have come out, I would definitely, I love record CDJs, turntables. I'd much rather use turntables. And now that the face controllers are out, I think that's going to open up for a lot of the venues to be like, oh, cool. Now the bass isn't an issue, whatnot. So turntables if I could, but realistically, it's like never an option for me.
Gotcha. All right. Last one. What word starts with the letter F and ends with the letters UCK?
Fuck. I was trying to think of something smart to say, but I couldn't go with anything.
I mean, I was thinking fire truck, but okay.
Fire truck.
All right, y'all. There you have it. All right, man. Let's talk about Clubkillers.
All right.
How'd you get involved with these guys?
So it was kind of like a funny process. So Alex, the owner of Clubkillers, Alex Dreams, he came to it's Jewel now, but what was Hayes back in the day. He came there, and he came with one of our friends and kind of walked up to the booth and introduced himself, and we just ended up hanging out all night, like drinking at the bar, and like we just like hit it off. And at the time, that was like right when Clubkillers first started. But he was doing these parties called House of Dreams in LA, and they were like these really big events. So I knew who he was, and I knew like kind of what he was doing. So he kind of gave me a free account, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then we just kind of stayed in touch, really. So I would say that was like 5 or 6 years ago. And then like 3 or 4 years ago, he kind of started doing some like, Clubkiller started reaching out to other DJs, and the brand was kind of getting bigger, and they moved to Vegas. And then I came down and visited him here. And then, he was like, hey, if you have any ideas for stuff that you want to do, let me know. And at that time I was like, yeah, if there's anything I can do to like further my DJ career, like I'm all about it. Right. So we just kind of kept kicking ideas around, and I did a few like things, for the brand, and he would help, market it and whatnot. And I was like contributing to the record pool. I wasn't like a full-time like employee, but I was doing like edits, and they would post them and whatnot. And then like 3 or 4 years ago, he approached me to do the first episode On the Road. Okay. So he was like, hey, we want to do this documentary on what it's like to, not be Tiesto, but to be a traveling DJ, and like, what does that actually look like when you're not in private jets and all these kind of things. So, we filmed that, and that was awesome. And then later.
First question, what's it like to live the life of a DJ on the road?
The life of a DJ on the road, if I had to use one word, I'd say intense. My last week's schedule was Friday, St. Louis, Saturday, Salt Lake City, Sunday, San Diego, Monday, back to Vegas. Had a day off, spent it with my family. Wednesday, back on, flew to Chicago, spent 2 days there. Then I flew back to Vegas. And that's just, that's like a 10-day period.
Okay. Let's talk about On the Road. That was actually the first time that I found out who you were.
Oh, awesome.
And I traveled a lot. At the time, I want to say I was working for an airline. So we got to travel for free. And one of my best friends in life, he lives out here. Shout out to my boy Smoke. So I would be at work in the wintertime in Denver, and I'd look at the forecast, and I'd say, snow, bet. Let me tweak some things on the schedule. Hey, somebody want to work for me on this day? Boom. And I came to Vegas. Anytime it snowed, I would come to Vegas just to hide out from the snow. Anywho, so I'm watching it. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. Wait, I've never taken a shower in an airport bathroom. What the hell is this guy doing? Like, and it caught me off guard, but I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's the life of a DJ. But it was really cool because, again, you got to see the average Joe, so to speak.
Right,
DJ.
yeah, right.
Are you still doing as much traveling now as you were then?
A little bit less, but I still travel probably 8 days a month, so 8 times a month. And then like my next 2 weeks are like pretty crazy. Like I'm only home like 1 day a week for 2 weeks, but then I get like 2 weeks off after that from traveling. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say the answer is yeah. I'm still traveling a ton.
Now, is that something that you guys are looking to bring back and continue more episodes with other traveling DJs?
Yeah, we have I think we have an episode with Shift coming out. I think in the next like 2 or 3 weeks. There's just a couple things we need to wrap up, and then the videographer actually that filmed that episode is a guy named John Cha. He moved to Dubai. He just moved back. Today's actually like his first day in the office. I'm like so excited. Nice. But now that he's back here full time, we're we have a list of DJs that we want to keep doing. And we're gonna streamline them a little bit, make them like not so long. Like I think mine was like 20 minutes, more of like a condensed version of it. And the game's changed, right? So like we want to adjust like what does it look like now? Because it's way different than when we made that. It's completely different now than it was then. So just kind of let it evolve a little bit, and then I think we want to do some episodes with some like younger guys that are just starting to travel, and then I think we have a couple like really big veterans that have agreed to do episodes, which is really exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got On the Road, and then there was Tech Talk.
Yeah.
And I really was on top of Tech Talk as well. And the one episode that really sticks out of my mind was when Jay Espinoza did the scratching and Ableton piece, and I was like, what? I don't even scratch, but I was like, that's pretty dope.
Yo, what's going on, guys? DJ Ikon, and I want to welcome you to this edition of Tech Talk, brought to you by Clubkillers.com. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, DJ Jay Espinoza, former USA Red Bull Freestyle champion, DJ for the Oakland Raiders, and one of the best DJs on the planet. He's going to help us solve a major problem all DJs have problems with. Jay?
Yeah, so if you're into making produced mixes, like, programs like Ableton, I'm going to show you guys how I record my scratching. So, let's do it.
Clubkillers Tech Talk, hosted by Ikon.
Alright, first things first, I usually set a 4-bar loop in Ableton, or you could do 8 bars. I'm going to do 4 for this video. So while this beat's playing, I'm going to go to Serato DJ. I'm going to record everything that's coming out of the mix, which is basically just the turntables. I'm going to turn the gains up a little bit, hit record, and start to lay down these scratches. This is only recording the scratching. This is not recording the beat playing in Ableton. So after you're done with the cuts, make sure you name it, whatever you want to name it, and click save. From here, literally just drag it out of Serato DJ, lay it in a track in Ableton. Unwarp it. This is almost like mixing. You're gonna figure out how to lay these scratches back on beat over the track. So I'm just gonna literally manually adjust this. You can hear it's getting closer, It's sounding how it was when I was actually doing the live scratch. Boom. Now we got it on beat. So you can either leave it raw, or if you want to add some effects, you could throw your EQs on it, or add some echo, or do whatever you want. The scratch is there on a separate track, and that is how I lay my scratches when I do my Ableton or produce mixes.
Yo, hold on. You thought that was it? Jay, show the people what you got.
Soldier shit. Light it up if you with me. Hit 'em up, light 'em up, light 'em up, get 'em up, light 'em up, light 'em up, set a fucking club up, set a fucking club up, set a fucking club up,
Alright guys, thanks for joining us on this edition of Tech Talk, brought to you by Clubkillers. Big shout out to my man Jay Espinoza for teaching us all how to lay proper scratching in Ableton Live. Jay, where can people find you at?
You can hit me up. It's all across the board at DJ Jay Espinoza with an S. It's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There it is.
And don't forget, you can follow us at Clubkillers or at DJ Ikon. If you like this video, hit like. If you loved it, hit subscribe. And we'll see you guys next week.
Is that something that we can see future episodes on? Or?
Yeah, we're actually, it's funny you say that. So actually, we're going to start season 2, and we're going to revamp it a little bit. Now that, we've gotten better with our video content, and now I kind of want to do it a little less. Like, for season 1, I thought it was cool, but looking back on it, I want to make it a little more entertaining, a little more less like I'm just reading from like a cue card, because a lot of them are very like step 1, blah blah, step 2, and at the time like it was awesome, and we got good feedback from it. But yeah, make it a little more entertaining, and then we want to cover a lot of the topics were like Ableton based, and this time we're actually gonna post something coming up in the next week or 2, but we're gonna let the whole DJ community decide what are the future episodes that we're gonna do, not us sitting around like picking topics, but what does the community want to learn, right? And then we're gonna go from there. And then a lot of the stuff too is gonna be like less like how to back up your library, but more of like a record box walkthrough with like Trentino, for instance, right? Like world champion, he's gonna come down and he uses it exclusively now. So he's gonna show us how like he does it, or we get a lot of stuff on like how do you do like a wordplay routine, stuff like that. So we're gonna do some episodes like that, and I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be fun.
Nice. And then I saw that you're doing, is it a weekly kind of recap thing?
So that's actually, that was a show that we put together actually it's for DJ CLA.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever she's out of town or can't do it or whatnot, then I kind of cover her. I kind of like the fill-in guy for anyone's show. So if they can't do it, then I'll pop in. But yeah, we're really excited about that. I think we just hit our 7th episode, and each one's getting bigger and bigger. And actually, it's funny is like IGTV has been, now they changed the interface, has been like crazy for us. It's like by far like our biggest platform, which is like crazy. Yeah, we just did a test video one day just to see how it would work, and it was like 5 times the amount of views that we would get on like a normal post. It was crazy. Yeah, so that's been really exciting for us.
Well, and it's crazy because when I first started seeing these things getting longer, not just necessarily you guys' videos, but just in general, I think I was so used to that 60 seconds that when it said keep watching, I was like, hell no, you didn't say it in the first 60 seconds. And then as I started seeing it more, I was like, well, let me hit keep watching. And I was like, oh, well, damn, I missed these 2 minutes and they were just as good as the first minute.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's what's up.
Yeah, it's cool. And then, Instagram is a pretty interesting company right now, as far as they're really trying to they're almost like a WhatsApp approach, like in China, right? Or like in Asia, where WhatsApp is a one-stop shop for everybody. You can text, you can post pictures, you can buy stuff, you can do everything right from this one program.
Wow.
And what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to get everyone to stop using Facebook and stop using YouTube, and they're giving you the ability to curate all your content. And moving forward, like starting like in the next couple of months, you'll be able to buy stuff directly through Instagram in one click. Not where it's right now, where you click and then you go to PayPal and whatnot. Like you'll literally be able to stay within the app, and you can do long form content with IGTV. You can do short form content with your 60 seconds. You can buy stuff. You can sell stuff. You can obviously post your pictures. They're going to be doing. It's pretty interesting what they're doing. It's definitely like they're really going after it. It's pretty cool what they're doing.
Nice. So what can we expect in the future as far as content from Clubkillers?
So we have a ton of stuff in the works. We have an entire new merch lineup coming out. I think we're going to drop in the next couple weeks. We have a really pretty ambitious goal. We want to start doing like one product a week. We have like four to five other shows right now that are in concept that we're going to start filming hopefully within the next 14 days. So really what you can start to expect to see from us is one show every day. That's our goal, is to do a show, 5 shows a week. And then on top of that, we really want to be focusing on like building that DJ community and having Clubkillers not just be a resource for music, but be a really good resource for information for DJs. So you'll be able to get, music, industry news, music news, product, unboxes, and as well as like reaching out to other like people in the community to we want to give access to as much information as possible through the most amount of sources that we can moving forward. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. We have like a ton of like really fun like stuff in the works.
Nice. I think that's actually pretty cool because I didn't. This is gonna sound really shitty, and I'll probably end up taking this part out. But I used to always log into Clubkillers and go right to music and get what I needed. And one day I had loaded it and got distracted or something. Something popped up on the screen, and I turned and looked at it. And then I scrolled. I was like, "Oh shit, what's all this?" Because I never. I mean,
right? Yeah.
In my mind,
no, totally. Yeah.
That. I was there to get my music, and I was like, "Oh, they got this, and I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And I was surprised at how much good information was there.
Yeah.
So now, before I log in, I'll just kind of scroll up and be like, "Okay, I seen all this. Cool."
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a warboard in the back, and it's just full of all these just really cool ideas that and we're really trying to encourage like the DJ community to reach out to us directly to tell us what information they want, not just from Tech Talk, but from anything, right? Like, I had someone contact me the other day and we're like, "Hey, I really want to start doing my own like YouTube vlogs, but I don't know anything about cameras, so I'm gonna do a whole thing on what's the best camera for someone," and that's like totally random, right? But that's something that like that's something that I get a lot is like those kind of things, and that's not content that we're seeing on other platforms, specifically geared towards DJs and whatnot. So that's the kind of stuff that we want to be doing is like how could we help you build your brand start to finish, and really just help you get out there and be the best you can be.
And that's actually a really good video because or a good idea for a video. When I started, of course I did what everybody does. I looked at, getting the mirrorless DSLR cameras and all that stuff. And I'm like, shit, the one I want is like $5,000.
Right.
And I'm like, but then I kind of, went in the YouTube wormhole and was there for 3 days. And then boom, a GoPro video pops up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? So I'm like, a GoPro's $300.
Right.
This camera's $5,000. So I ended up buying a GoPro and like, holy shit, this is what's up.
Yeah. And
then I ended up buying two
right.
more. So I'm like, I got 1, 2, 3. And then, now I'm trying this 360 and I'm still under $5,000.
Right. Yeah.
So
and it's cool. It's like, we're in a really good, I would consider this the like golden age of like technology for content creators, right?
Yeah.
Like, for depending on what you want to do, you could go out and you can get like a really cool setup for under $2,000, right? And you could be making all sorts of really good content. It's like crazy, back in the day, like you couldn't do any of this stuff without like a cinema camera or whatever. That day is gone.
Yeah.
Like you can make incredible content with something that you could just go down to Best Buy and get.
Yeah.
Like for not very much money, and you can make incredible content on that stuff.
My 2 cents is trial and error. I went like all this shit, I carry all of this.
Right.
And I got 2 bags. One's 50 pounds, one's 40 pounds. And I was going to get rid of these mics. They're just big, bulky, and I had to fight with the camera angle sometimes. And I was going to do these lapel mics, these hidden little lapel mics. And I was actually in Atlanta, and the guy I was talking to in Atlanta was like, "Nah, stick with these. When you show up, this looks legit.
Right, yeah.
People are going to take you seriously.
100%, yeah.
If you just showed up with, a lapel mic and an iPhone, I might have been like, come on, bro.
Right.
Come on, man. So I'm like, yeah, you can do it with an iPhone and whatnot. But I guess I wanted to be taken serious. So I invested a shit ton of money in all this.
Hey, your setup's dope. It's super cool.
I need to get a sponsor. Hint, hint.
Toyota, where you at?
Right? I need me one of those too. Okay, so let's play another game. Have you ever played Two Truths and a Lie?
No, and I didn't know what that was. I was laughing. I was like, and I didn't want to ask DeVille.
All right, so what Two Truths and a Lie is basically, you're going to tell me 3 things.
Okay.
2 of them are going to be true. 1 of them is going to be a lie.
Okay.
I have to guess which one is the lie.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Anything I want?
Anything you want.
Okay. 2 truths. Okay.
But you don't tell me which one it is. I have to guess which
yeah,
one it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I just tell you 3 things, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have 4 kids.
Okay.
Mariah Carey won't let you look at her or speak to her of any kind if she hosts a night at a nightclub. My name is Aaron White.
All right. I've heard some crazy stories about Mariah and her being diva-ish. So I'm gonna say that one's true. I failed to ask you your government name before we started this interview, so now I'm on the fence. Like, is that it, or is it the 4 kids? I know you have kids, and I'm like, hold on, I stalked them on Instagram.
I assume that because I know I have kids, but I doubt you know how many. Aaron White's a pretty ridiculous name for a 6'4" white guy.
Yeah. Well, I stalked you a little bit on Instagram, and I just saw a boy and a girl. So I'm gonna say that the kids is the lie because you only have 2 instead of 4.
Yep, you got it. Got it.
Yeah, I'm a winner. Okay, you got 2 kids.
Yep.
Boy, girl.
Boy, girl, Olivia and Xander.
How old are they?
Yeah, 2 and 5.
Nice.
Yeah. Crazy age.
Which one's older?
Xander. So older boy, which I was super stoked.
Yes.
Because in my experience, older sisters just get younger brothers in trouble, but older brothers take care of younger sisters.
I'm guessing you have an older sister?
No, I'm actually an
okay.
only child. Well, I have 1 stepbrother, but no direct siblings.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How do you balance dad life? Like you just said, you're gone for 2 weeks. You're home 1 day. I mean, and you got a 5 and a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, tell us how you balance that.
It's hard because the biggest problem that I have is I actually have like 3 jobs. So I have my DJ career, I have Clubkillers. So I'm doing this, and then I also have a separate like photo and photography business that. So between those 3 things, it's a lot. The way that I balance it is luckily my wife is amazing. Like if it wasn't for her, this wouldn't even be an option, right? I'd probably only be able to do one of those things. But she's like 100% supportive, and like she totally gets it. And it's hard because she really bears the brunt a lot of the times of like, obviously when I'm here, I do as much as I can with the kids, and I'm try to be the best dad try to be the most relevant dad I can, right? I'm always trying to be there with the kids and spend as much quality time with them as I can. But when I'm gone, it falls on her. And she's just awesome. She's totally supportive of it. She totally gets it. I don't know how you could balance it without that. I wouldn't even know how to answer that if it wasn't for her.
Here's a random question. I've talked to several DJs that, that are married spouses, and everybody says, same thing. Your spouse has to support you 100%.
Yeah.
Just not going to work. When you first got with your wife, like, does she understand, hey, this is how I am? Or did you kind of have to, for lack of a better word, train her to, this is the lifestyle kind of?
No. So, with her and I, it was kind of so we've been together 18 years. So I actually knew her before I moved down here. She was one of my very first friends. So when I moved down here, before we were dating, but like we were good friends. She was actually a cocktail waitress at Pure at the time. So she was in the scene. She understood the lifestyle. And then, when we started dating and, kind of started pursuing that, she was already well aware. Like she knew what was going on. She knew the lifestyle. She's, the first couple of years she traveled a lot with me, and we'd go to these other cities, and she totally get it. So I wouldn't even know how to answer that question if like today, for instance, right? Like I met somebody and trying to bring them into my lifestyle, they just wouldn't get it.
Right.
And I don't even know how I would even approach that with somebody, because they would be like, they just wouldn't understand. And I'm not saying that's, the case for all people, but it would just be really hard. But because she was, this came in steps, right? It wasn't like all of a sudden one day I had all these things. This came in steps, and we were together a long time before we had kids. So, that helped a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you had the fortunate, if you will, that you guys kind of went through this together, this journey together from the beginning. Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Because a lot of people ask me that too. Hey, look, you're always on the road. You're here, you're there. Like, and I got a baby on the way.
Yeah.
And people are like, how does she deal with that? I was like, we kind of had that talk. Like, this is who I am. This is what I do. Like,
yeah,
get on board.
Right.
Like, hit your wagon to me. Let's roll, So,
and even that being said, as amazing as she is, that doesn't mean that it's easy.
Yeah.
That just means that it makes it easier for me. But it's there's a lot of give and take there for sure. But big shout out to Kelly. I love you.
Shout out to Kelly. All right. So we're bouncing dad. But you said you got 3 jobs.
Yeah.
But don't you own a sneaker shop too?
So yes. I'm part owner. We actually at the beginning of this year we opened a new location inside the Wynn Casino, which was like crazy big. At that point, like me and my partners kind of sat down and it was either we had this like all in kind of conversation, right? It was like the company is growing super fast. There's crazy amount of like expansion going on. And it kind of came to this point where it was either I had to basically decide that I wanted to do that full time and that was gonna be my only job or not. And to be honest, like I love shoes and it's been awesome owning Feature and being a part of that, but it's not my passion. And that business is kind of at it's kind of at a point where it's kind of evolving into like specialized labor, right? Like people that they're bringing on board specialize in what they're doing and they've been doing it and they're experts in their field. I'm not an expert in any field of sneakers.
Gotcha.
So it made it really easy for me to take a step back. I'm still involved in like major decisions, but as far as like day to day and whatnot, I don't have any. I'm not involved in those, and that's fine. That's totally cool. Yeah. Which was like it was an awesome scenario.
So
yeah.
it took a little something off your plate.
It did, and I'm still super involved. But like I said, as far as like going down there every day and all those kind of things, like that's not where I'm going.
And what's the name of the shop?
Feature Sneaker Boutique. You can find them. It's www.feature.com or at FeatureLV is on Instagram.
There you go. Make sure y'all go there. Let's transition from the sneaker shop back to the DJ booth.
All right.
One of the things I like to ask every DJ that I talk to, because everybody has different experiences, they've seen different things. And I love asking this question because I put out most of the content in the podcast for the people to see, but there's some that doesn't get out. But I always like to ask, what's the craziest thing you've seen in the booth and from the booth?
So in the booth, I would say the craziest thing, one of the craziest things that ever happened to me was, so we were doing an event with Travis Scott and I had never met Travis Scott before. Him and his crew were like in the building. This was at he was there. They were downstairs in like the green room, and I'm like, I was like DJing before he went on, and like right in the middle of my set, this guy walks up on stage just by himself, and he literally just pushes me out of the way, and I'm like, who is this? And I look over, and all of a sudden, at first I didn't even register. It's Travis Scott, right? So he just like kicks me out of my booth. Doesn't even say anything to me. He just pushes me out of the way, and just starts like going through my computer. And I'm like, and at first I'm like mad, like, yo, who the fuck is this dude? Wait, can I say that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? So then I realize who it is, and so I walk up and I'm like, hey man, what's going on? Like, can I help you find something or whatever? And he like won't even talk to me. He won't even acknowledge that I'm there. And I'm like, okay. So like 2 minutes later, like some more of his people from his entourage like come up on stage. He just like I have the mic in my hand, grabs the mic out of my hand, walks up to the front of the stage and like does his performance, DJs for himself, like literally just like kicks me out. And then the performance was crazy. It was like, I don't know if you've ever seen Travis Scott, but when he performs, like people are literally climbing up like hanging off stuff. Wow. It's so crazy. And then he just like gets done, drops the mic, doesn't even say a word, and just walks off stage.
Wow.
Like the song ends, everyone's looking at me. I'm like at this point, like his security had kind of come up. So they were kind of like holding me back, like not holding me back. Like I was trying to get the thing, but like they're kind of like, you know, don't go up on stage kind of thing. So I'm like, what? So I got to like run up there. You know, there's like no music at this point, right? I had to like run up there, find a song, start the song. Like it was crazy. Like it was, I'd never seen anything like it before. I'd never had an artist do anything like that before, except for Mariah Carey, who you can't talk to or look to. It was just such a like a unique, like I didn't even know what to like say or do, or like, do I get mad at him? Do I not get mad at him? I mean, I've seen like crazy things like stuff that like girls have done or artists have come in and like done crazy things, but I feel like that's all stuff you can see on TMZ. I feel like that's like a pretty like unique situation, and Chase B wasn't with him, so it wasn't like his DJ wasn't there. It was just such an odd like I mean, and he literally like pushed me out of the way, like to the point where I was like, yo, I'm gonna tee off on this guy, and this Travis Scott, and I was like, and I just felt like it just felt so funny, and I felt like the hired help, you know what I mean? Like I was like so beneath him. I don't know, it was funny, but like that was pretty interesting for sure.
All right, so then what's the craziest thing you've seen from the booth into the crowd?
From the booth into the crowd, I mean, I've seen girls get totally naked before, which is crazy. I've seen crazy fights for sure. I've seen bottles thrown at people before. Like I've seen that. I think one of the craziest things that I've seen, which was like so cool. I was DJing for Waka Flocka, and we were like, this was in Connecticut, and he comes up to me and he's like, yo, he's like, at the end, I'm just gonna like get down in the crowd. And I'm like, okay, all right, I've seen that before. So he goes down and he does this whole like last song like in the crowd, right? Like in the middle of the crowd. There's like 2,000 people. Wow. And like it was like crazy. He was just like, everybody was like so amped up. And as soon as the song ends, he was like, yo, I'm buying everybody in this club a shot. Let's go to the bar. And it was like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like all these people just bum rushed the bar. He was just like pouring shots at everybody, and he literally stayed until, I mean, we closed the club. Like the club was closed, and he was still just partying with everybody. But I had never seen like the reaction was like, it was like a positive riot, yeah. But it was like the craziest thing. I mean, like the managers are running around, they don't know what's going on. Like everybody bum rushes the bar, and he was just like, it was the coolest thing. It was so cool. That was definitely pretty crazy, like on a positive note. Yeah. You know what I mean? Obviously I've seen like other, you know, crazy things, but I feel like that's just all like kind of people being dumb. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like just like stupid stuff. Nice. But yeah, like that was really cool. I saw someone throw like $50,000 at the club one time.
In a regular club, not a strip club.
Regular club. Right off the balcony at Bank. Yeah. He walked in and he was like, I'm gonna make it rain, and he had just like the DJ booth at Bank back in the day was, so you're on like a second level for people that have never been there, and then right next to the booth is like this big VIP table, and it's like a balcony that overlooks the main dance floor. And so he walked up and he was like, yo, we're gonna make it rain, and I'm like, hey, okay, whatever. And then he just showed me these like stacks of money, and at the time I was like, that seems like a lot. Like there was like a lot of stacks, and I was like, that seems like a lot of money. And like he throws it and whatever, and then later like his security guard came up to me and I was like, man, how much money was that? And he was like, I think it was around 50 G's.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy, man.
Did it cause a stir on the dance floor there?
So he kind of did it in like two waves, but yeah, I mean, you just see the entire crowd, like cocktail waitresses, bussers. I mean, everybody just drops down to the floor and is just scrambling. It's so funny because, you know, you're talking about people that are probably making like, you know, $100,000 a year, and they're so excited to pop up with like $1, right? They get like $1 or $2, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, you leave just crowd on the floor for $2, like that was definitely crazy because it was so like unexpected. Right. You know what I mean? I've seen people take like $100 or whatever, but I mean, it was just stacks of money. like stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. And I didn't think he was gonna throw all of it, but he just was hammered and wanted to do it. The other crazy thing is I was at Excite one night and there were two people. I don't know if I never could confirm this, but I think there was like one was a Saudi prince and another was like another Saudi prince or something like that, right? And this was like right when Excess got like first started getting like super crazy popular. And they were just buying bottles for the entire club one after another. And one of the managers told me that they spent like over $1.5 million.
Wow.
Like just buying bottles. And you could just see it. It would just be like, I mean, every couple minutes, so this waitress would just bring a bottle of champagne for my table. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm not going to buy anything.
Right.
But you could just see him just firing off one, boom, 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 boom. And I'm just like, what is going on right now?
Like were they competing?
Yeah, like going back and forth with each other. It was crazy. That from just like a silliness standpoint, is pretty crazy. To see that, like that was definitely like, cause like we're standing in the booth. And I'm just like, yo, this is crazy, like crazy. That's definitely like pretty crazy.
Now,
for sure.
And not to throw shade at Mariah, but I gotta hear what's up with this.
Oh,
Can't
man.
look, can't talk.
This is such an awesome story. So, when the Palms first opened the second tower and they had Moon Nightclub, they did Mariah Carey's birthday and I got the DJ for it. So, right before she gets there, her manager and security guard walk up and they're like, "All right, here's the DJ booth, and right next to the DJ booth is where they're gonna put her." And they're like, "No matter what, you cannot look at her and you can't talk to her, and under no circumstances are you to make eye contact with her." And I'm like, all right, whatever. She's like at the table next to me. I probably won't even see her, right? She's going to be with like 50 people. We'll just give her the mic. She'll say happy birthday or whatever. If she wants to, she'd even have to. So she shows up and like an hour in, the security guard walks up and she's like, "Hey, Mariah wants to come into the DJ booth." And so I'm like, okay, whatever she wants. So she had been drinking, I guess, like she doesn't drink very often, but she had like drank, so she was like pretty hammered. So she comes up and she sits like literally like right next to me on the stool. And I'm like literally trying not to like look at her. I'm trying not to make eye contact with her. I'm trying not to speak with her.
Blinders.
Right? But she's like talking to me. So imagine I'm like talking, but I have like my head in the other direction. And like I just don't know what to do. And what's funny is this was like years and years and years ago, right? This is like 12 years ago. And at the time, I didn't have the confidence to just be like, whatever, right? Now, if that happened, I would just be like, yo, she's coming to the DJ booth, like she's fair game, right? If she wants to talk to me, like I'm gonna talk to her. But back then, I really was like worried that like, oh my God, someone's gonna see me talking to Mariah Carey and like I'm gonna get fired and so for like 20 minutes, we were having these conversations and she was really drunk, right? So I didn't really remember what we were talking about, but I think it was just more like music and like how this stuff works or whatever, right? So I don't know. It was just, I wish I had a video of it because it must have looked so ridiculous. Her sitting next to me. And then if you've ever seen Mariah Carey's bodyguard or her old bodyguard, he's like the biggest person I've ever seen in my life. Like this dude is like 6'8", 300 pounds. And he's just like, he just looks like a terror. Like he'd eat me. And so I'm even more scared, right? Because I'm afraid this guy's going to be like, "What are you doing?" And like, I don't know. The whole thing was just so ridiculous. But then at the end, I finally like looked at her and no one said anything, right? So like the last 2 minutes I get to like spend like actually looking and talking to her or whatever. But it was just one of those things where it was just, the whole situation was so ridiculous.
All right. Let's play another game. If I weren't a DJ, I'd be...
Probably like a videographer of some kind. I'm super passionate about like photo and video stuff. So if I wasn't a DJ, I'd definitely be doing that. Or something creative. I'm super creative. I can't stand like if I'm not creative, like I'm terrible at doing anything not creative. Okay. Like I would not be an accountant.
And I took accounting 1 and accounting 2, and I couldn't be one either. So, well, let's talk about that. What do you use to edit your videos?
So I used to use Final Cut, and I actually about 2 years ago switched from Mac to PC, not for DJing, but for video editing stuff. At that time, I was using Premiere and After Effects and whatnot. And then I recently, last year, I switched over to DaVinci Resolve because I was color grading with it. It's like a Hollywood level like color grade thing, and then they actually added on the last like 2 updates ago, they added like video editing into it, and it's really super optimized like Final Cut. So if you ever use Final Cut is super fast, right? Render times, everything's super fast. That's how DaVinci Resolve is for PCs. It's ultra fast, and it's a super cool interface, and so I use that now, and it has After Effects built into it. It's a program called Fusion, so it's like kind of like a one-stop shop for me. So I use that to do my videos, but I still do use After Effects and Premiere Pro because that's kind of like the industry standard. So, you know, if I'm working with somebody else, I'll use those. And I went to school for them, so I'm like super comfortable with all the programs. Yeah.
And what's your go-to camera?
That's a funny question. Right now, it's the Canon EOS R, the new mirrorless system. But over the last year, I had Sony's. I had the A7S2s, which are great. Then I went to the A7 IIIs. Then I got rid of those, and I went to the Fuji X-T3s. Got rid of those. I had Panasonic GH5 and GHSs. I tried the Panasonic full-frame cameras, the S1 and S1Rs that came out. But I've settled on each time I'd get a new camera system, there was like a specific reason why I wanted to do it. But over the last year, I really like kind of slimmed down like to, I really know exactly what I'm looking for now. And the EOS R just fits the bill the most for photo and video. If I was doing just video, I'd probably get like a Blackmagic 4K. But because I'm doing photo, the Canon EOS R is awesome for doing both.
Interesting, because I wanted the Sony A7 III. That's my $5,000 camera.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're incredible cameras. You know, they're especially for doing like if you're doing like nightclubs and you're in low light, like the autofocus is incredible. If you want to take pictures, they're incredible picture cameras. But for me, like having an articulating screen, which if you don't know what that is, that means that the screen like folds out and can face you. That's a super big deal for me right now. And Canon has by far the best autofocus system for face detection for video. Their dual pixel autofocus Sony is really good and Fuji is really good, but it's just not on par with what you can do with Canon. So that's why I settled. And you can output, like if I ever need to do a high-end commercial, I can output, you know, in like really high codecs to an external recorder. So it still has the option to do like, you know, if somebody hired me to do a commercial, I can do that. But it's the best hybrid system that I found.
So in upcoming tech talks or whatnot, this is something that we can kind of expect to hear about.
Yeah, I actually haven't sold my Sony or my Fuji systems specifically because we're gonna do a head-to-head with John Cha, the video guy. He uses all Panasonics. So here we have GoPros, my Canons. Clubkiller owns like a different Sony, like a A6400. So we're going to do a head-to-head comparison, best content creation camera, and we're going to do every single one of those cameras.
Nice.
Yeah, so it'll be super good.
So let's talk about Blackout Artists for just a moment. You were co-founder?
Yes. Yep.
And then what happened?
So basically, you know, started it and it was like going great. You know, we built up this cool roster. But, you know, I kind of got to this point where I was like getting super, super busy with like my own career and the other things that were going on. I had opened Feature at this point. And I basically went to Ikon and was like, I don't want to be in charge of working on other people's careers. I want to work on my career, basically. So at that point, this guy named Chris had approached us about like becoming a partner, and I was like, cool. I was like, I'm gonna take a step back. Chris can kind of come in and assume my role, and it was great. Like it worked out perfectly. So because, you know, like I said, like I really needed to focus on my own career and not spend. And I'll be totally honest, man. Being a manager of DJs, it's like a thankless job. It really is. I have a lot of respect for people that do it or they do it well, because it's a lot of work and it's a lot of like, you know, you're dealing with people's lives and it's a lot of pressure, right? Like you don't fill someone's calendar every month. Like they're upset, they have kids, they have rent, they have all these things. And whether you acknowledge that that's your responsibility or not, like these people are depending on you, and it's a really hard thing to do, to take that pressure. And I didn't want to do it. I wanted to just focus on my own career, and that was kind of it. And it just, like I said, it worked out perfectly where I could take a step back, and then we had somebody that brought more value to it than I could at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's say I come to you and I say, hey, I want to be a Blackout artist.
Yeah.
How do I get in? What's the golden ticket? What's the secret?
So it's funny, man. I would probably say that I get this question more, like we're talking about like the mentor role, than any other question. Or I would say more people hit me up on social media asking me about this than anything else. The answer is pretty simple. You need to, one, realize, do you really need a manager? And what is that manager going to do for you? Because people have this like weird like interpretation that like if you have a manager, you're just automatically going to get gigs. And that's like not the way it works. Like I took the approach, and this is something that like Vice had told me like 15 years ago when Scam first started. I'd asked him, I was like, like you're Vice, this is, why do you even care? And he's like, because I always want to be the good guy. I don't want to have to go chase after money. I don't want to have to come down on the club for not having, I want to be the guy that shows up and then everybody likes, and, I want to be the good guy. And so for me, that was kind of the approach that I took, was like, man, that as I started to travel more and had to deal more and more with like these types of situations, I realized how much value that brought to, I just want to show up. I just want to be the face of the party and have a good time and go drink with the owners and never once have to ask, yo, where's my money at? Or what's going on with this or whatever. That's their responsibility. So, you have to ask yourself, do you need that, right? Is that important to you? For me, having a manager checked a lot of boxes, right? Because I had other businesses, I had other time constraints, I'm starting a family. Having somebody that can, one, be the bad guy, and two, kind of take off some of that workload from me, on day-to-days, that was really important. But if you don't need that, then having a manager isn't just like this go-to thing where you're just going to get gigs. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that, and I'm still on the hustle every day, going out to get my own gigs. Managers are just there to help me sew up my own relationships. And if they have a relationship and they can make an introduction, that's awesome. But ultimately, it's up to me or the DJ to go and make that club want to book me or make that company want to book me or whatever. It's not the manager's responsibility. It's my responsibility. They're just there to assist in that. So if that's something that you think you need, then cool. Then the next step would be go find a management company that, that you like or whatnot. Getting into one is really hard right now because the DJ game has changed a lot over the last few years. A couple years ago, all buyers wanted to deal with agents. That's just the way it worked, right? Like you almost had to be part of an agency. Well, over the last couple of years, that's kind of changed. And a lot of clubs now, they don't want to deal with agencies. They don't want to deal with buyers. They want to deal with you directly. They've had bad, for some reason or another, they've had the agencies have left like a bad taste in their mouth. So, you have to really then look at that. Like, do you want to be involved with an agency, and what's the value that agency is going to bring to you? And then on the flip side, to get into an agency, you have to, at this point, because there's so many DJs out there, you have to bring a ton of value for that agency to be like, yeah, let's do this. Because otherwise, you're just a name on this agency. But if you're not bringing any value, then the agent's not going to push you, and the agent's not going to push you, then you're just doing the same thing you are right now, right? So, my advice is always, if you've decided that, this is definitely something that you want to do, how much value can you bring that agency? Because if your answer is, well, I'm a good DJ, well, that doesn't mean anything. That's almost like the least important thing. The most important thing is how marketable are you? What, do you have a niche? Is there something that differentiates you between the 150 other DJs that are trying to get into this club? Those are all the things that you have to be able to answer before you approach any agent for anything. Because otherwise, literally, like Klika, the person that owns Blackout, I mean, she gets 20 to 30 emails a week of DJs that are trying to get on the roster. And and the agency community is pretty small, and all the agents kind of talk to each other. They're all friends, and they say the same thing. They're like, yeah, like all these people are blanketing, trying to get on with an agency, but at the end of the day, like, are they bringing any value? Probably not. They're just another DJ. And so that's really what you need to approach is, how are you going to make the agency money, and how is the agency going to make you money? And if you can't answer any of those questions, then you're not ready to have an agent.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's just a frustrating path to walk if you, because if you're trying and you can't answer those questions, you're just going to keep getting no's.
Right.
So, that's the really the best thing is you just need to be able to bring tons and tons of value, which in return will get you more bookings. That's a good thing for you to do,
Gotcha. All right. So I just have this random question, and I don't like to ask DJs about money because that's, I think that's something that's personal. But I've always wondered, when you have an agency, and you're booked, does the agency pay you directly for that booking, or is that something where like they have to wait till the club pays them and then they pay you, or how does that work?
So different agencies taking a different approach to this. If a club contacts an agency, and let's take like Blackout, for instance, like they contact it, and Blackout has never had a dealing with this specific club or venue, then in order to even book the DJ, they have to do the deposit, right? And then once you've built like a track record of like paying everybody on time and like good events and these kind of things, then you can get some leeway as far as like if you're a promoter and you have to wait till the venue get paid, then they can start working like those kind of deals in place. Sometimes like I'll show up and the gig or the venue will give me money, and then I'll just pay. I'll just give that check to Klika or Blackout, and then they pay me back. Sometimes I just give them a commission, like they'll pay me cash or whatever. But it's typically we don't get paid until the agency gets paid. Gotcha. So they're not like fronting, it's in some cases, like I said, if it's like a venue that like we've worked a ton with, and for some reason, like they didn't get the check out or whatever, on that case, then sometimes the agency will just like pay you, right? Instead of having to wait for a long time.
Gotcha.
But for the most part, it's you don't get paid until the agency gets paid.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the pros and cons of having an agency versus not having one?
So that's a really good question. I would say that the pros of having an agency are, it allows you the time to just work on promoting your DJ brand, right? And then having an agency, you kind of you have a built-in network, right? You have other DJs on the roster. You have, as the more time goes on, the bigger the network of clubs the agency deals with, that by default expands your, theoretical network of places you can do, or people you can talk to. Those are some of the big pluses. All the menial tasks of like sending invoices, tracking down your money, doing all that kind of stuff. They take care of that at the end of the year for taxes. That's another big thing. I get one 1099 from Blackout and just give it to my accountant, and it makes it super easy versus having to actually approach it from like I do with my other businesses, right? Where it's just a totally different situation. Gotcha. The negatives of having an agency, well, you have to pay commission, and you have to pay commission on everything that you do. So whether it's my contact, Blackout's contact, Scam's contact, wherever that lead came from, it doesn't matter. You're paying commission on that.
So let me make sure I understand this. So let's say you get yourself a gig at, the hookah spot up the street here.
Yep.
Whatever, and they're going to pay you $500. You still have to pay. I'm just using random $500, but you still have to pay a commission to that, even though you went to the hookah spot.
Yeah.
Got your own gig.
Yeah.
The whole nine.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's something that's hard for a lot of like new people, or especially people that have like, one of my friends who's from the East Coast is like a pretty big DJ out there. Like he's really big, and he was looking at, signing on to an agency. And then at the end, he decided not to, because he was simply like, the return that I'm going to get on having an agency versus the commission that I'm going to make, one doesn't outweigh the other. So for me, it doesn't make sense, right? So he decided not to go down the path of an agency. And a lot of people out there do great without an agency. Having an agency isn't like the only way to be successful. Right. It can be an easier way to be successful, but I always told everybody an agent or an agency is just a tool in your arsenal, and how you use that tool is completely up to you. So if you think that having an agency is a great tool to use, by all means, it can be great.
Well, now if I was calling a venue, to say, hey, I'm DJ Suave, I'd like to DJ here, versus, hey, my name is Kelly and I'm calling from such and such agency on behalf of DJ Suave who wants to DJ there. Doesn't one just have a better ring to it than the other?
Sometimes it can. And normally, the just hitting people up like randomly it's hard for me to speak on because it's not something I've really done a lot. You know what I mean? Normally, if I know that there's going to be a buyer somewhere, I'll go and I'll introduce myself and we'll hang out all night and we'll build a rapport. And then usually my process would be build a rapport, send them some funny messages on Instagram, get their number. I won't even talk to them about a gig for probably the first month.
Gotcha.
I'm just befriending them and solidifying that relationship and sending them funny pictures. And if they have kids, I'm sending them pictures of my kids. If they're into football and it's Monday Night Football, I'm sending them a thing oh man, your team's gonna get smoked or whatever. Just building that rapport of what they're into, specifically so that I want them to come to me with yo man, we want to get you out here. Or another approach is, once that rapport is built, then I'll go to Klika or Blackout and be like, hey, me and Joe are super tight now. Let's hit him up about a date. And then it comes from a very genuine spot, right? Because we are legitimately friends. And at this point, I want to go visit this guy, or this girl, we're friends, it's awesome. I want to go visit them. They want me to come visit them. We have this good relationship. That's kind of but as far as you're right, it is. And typically if you're a buyer or you open a new club, you're really familiar with Scan, Blackout, Rich Group, White Label. You're familiar with all these different agencies. You've probably already reached out on your own about, send over your roster, who you have available, your prices, blah, blah, blah. So that relationship is usually, or that dialogue has already been created on the back end already. Gotcha. So that's, yeah. Did I answer that?
Now, do multiple, so here's, I guess I got two more questions then. With how many DJs are on the Blackout roster right now?
I think there's 8 right now.
Doesn't that create competition for, the bigger the roster,
Yeah. And, 2 years ago, I think we had a few more guys and we actually wanted to cut it down. But we were adding guys because it was just legitimately like people would be contacting us in venues and wanting DJs, and we just didn't have any. Everybody was working, right? There's a lot more DJs out there now. So, now we're kind of trying to scale that down a little bit just because the competition, there just is way more competition out there. And yeah, there is competition within every agency, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody's fighting over the same, the same jobs, basically. That's where the niche thing kind of comes in. If you're we have DJ Dynamic and he's an amazing Latin artist, right? And Latin DJ. And so when people come to us and they want a Latin, it's really easy to just be like, oh yeah, he's doing this party with Ozuna tomorrow, and the immediate credibility. And then that's his lane. We have guys that specialize in hip hop. We have guys that, like me, that kind of, you could stick anywhere, right? I wouldn't say I'm the best at any one thing, but I can get the job done in a really well way for everything, right? And that's just, how it is. So you have people that kind of fit within a specific lane. But yeah, there's definitely competition within, and that's good. Competition breeds excellence,
Right.
Actually, can I add one thing? This is actually to an earlier question.
Sure.
So when you're talking about the pros and the cons of the agency, I think that a lot of younger guys, they follow Diplo and Steve Aoki and Chainsmokers, whatever, and they see them talking about their agents, right? That type of agency or that type of agent is completely different once you get into the realm of where you're selling tickets. Once you become a ticket selling DJ and you're able to go to a venue and be like, hey, today I'm going to sell 500 tickets for you. those types of agents are completely different.
Gotcha.
Now you're into like working for like William Morris or Paradigm, or these are the guys that represent like your Michael Jacksons, your Bruno Mars, your whatever, right? It's a totally different thing than when I'm talking about an agency like from us to Little John.
Gotcha.
And then Little John and above is when you get into like the really, really super big agencies. And those are completely different. Those are teams of people, like where you're talking about like, if you look at Diplo, right? Diplo has an agent, he has a manager, he has a creative director, a social director,
Gotcha.
you're talking about 12 or 13 people probably going to make Diplo.
Okay.
This is totally different than that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Let's play another game.
Yes. Killing this game thing right now.
Yo, who's on your Mount Rushmore of DJs?
Ooh, so I would definitely say I'm gonna kind of like date these, right? Okay. So A-Track when he was younger and he was just doing battles and whatnot, I kind of grew up with like him winning like ITFs and whatnot, and like back in the day. And I nothing against A-Track now, right. But this is like, when he was just a battle DJ, that's like who I wanted to be. After that, I would say Craze from 97, 98, 99 when he won. I think those are the right years. When he won the DMC Worlds, like that was just like, I don't know, it was like so amazing and that was right when I was getting into DJing, and then like watching that, and I was just like, oh my God, this is like fucking mind boggling to me. Man, I would say kind of two that I would put together, like from the new generation, would be like Miles Medina and Jay Espinoza. I would kind of count those as one. They've really, half a face, exactly. They've really like taken the like all the tools that millennials possess, social media, technology. They've really taken it and they've run with it, and they are incredibly talented. And I'm so happy to see like the next generation of DJs. Like, I'm so glad that they're spearheading that, because I just think that it's amazing what those guys are doing. And then I guess from it's I would say AM. I was really fortunate to work with him for a long time at Pure, and I get to open for him, every Tuesday, and I would by no means say that we were like super good friends or anything, but I did get to know him, and I got to live through. I was right here when he blew up, and I got to see it with my own eyes and watch. Like I remember when he did his first night at Body English at the Hard Rock. I was out of town, and all my friends were blowing me up the next day. They were like, "You would not believe this guy. The shit that he does is unbelievable." And at the time, I was like, "Yeah, whatever." Like, I'm sure it's incredible. Right. He's great. Then I went and I saw it, and I actually went into the DJ booth and I asked him, I'm like, "Can I just stand back here? I just want to check it out." He was super cool, and it was just like me and I think his manager at the time, and I just stood there and watched him for like 2 hours. And I had never seen wordplay like that before. And I had never seen a DJ in a nightclub setting that just wasn't playing current music. That was actually going all over the place and getting a reaction from it. I had seen other people do it, but it wasn't, you didn't get a reaction from it. It was almost like kind of like not cool, right? Mm-hmm. And then he came on and he was doing crazy scratch routines and wordplay routines, and he was covering 50 different genres of music. And he would straight up look at you and be like, "You know what? I feel like this crowd needs to get a little more aggressive." And then he would do like some like crazy rock shit or play like Rage or whatever. And I'm like, "You're playing fucking Rage Against the Machine in a nightclub?" To me, it was like, I couldn't even believe what he was doing. And then the way that he delivered it was just, it was so cool. And it was like such a mind-blowing experience for me at the time. So I would definitely put him on that list for sure, because he had such an important like part in just the development of like nightclub DJs as a whole. Like it's pretty amazing what he did.
Nice. There you have it, folks. All right. I want to ask you, because you do travel and I travel a lot. I always like to ask people, some good travel tips.
Oh yeah.
I gave my number one travel tip recently that sparked controversy. I told everybody to start carrying Imodium AD.
That's awesome.
And actually, I was here and I told DeVille, and that's where it all started. And we literally had this whole 10-minute talk about not taking this shit somewhere. So, what is that one travel tip, man?
That's a shitty travel tip.
What's the one travel tip, man, that you just everybody needs to know?
So, I would say right now, recently, like actually just sat down and did the math on this. I got this bag, and the bag is like a roller bag, but then it turns into a backpack. And so when I book my flights, like I say no bags selected, right? It's just my carry-on, and I carry my like 2 computers, everything on this one bag. And I did the math. It's gonna save me like $1,100 this year.
Holy shit!
In because $30 to $80 to add a bag on to every flight. I did it for the whole year. It's like a little over $1,000 for me. I would say anything like that is a great travel tip. There's so much stuff out there that lets you like trick airlines into doing different things.
Yeah.
And then another great one is if you can, those points credit cards are incredible. Like I have a Chase card that has Southwest. I literally buy everything on it. At the end of the month, I just, pay it off. Like I keep track of it like you normally would your bank account.
Right.
And then I get like 2 to 1 points and I'm roughly getting about $2,000 in flights a year from it. So like anything like that you can do is crazy. Like they work so well and they give you so many like advantages. And when I first started, I didn't even have any credit like at all. I bought, I got one where I think I sent them like $500 and they sent me a card back. I can't remember what they're called. Secure card. Yeah. I had a secured credit card, and then that worked itself into like a non-secured and whatnot. But stuff like that. And then I think like my third tip would be when you're planning a trip, it's really, really important to add in the cost of like Ubers and all these things, because I talk to a lot of DJs and they're like, oh man, I'm so excited. I'm gonna go travel. I got this gig and like they're paying me, it's like $1,000 landed or whatever. And I did the math on it and I can get this flight and this whatever. And I'm like, but have you added in the like, for instance, like if you play in San Francisco, you got an Uber from SF to the city, that's $50 each way. If it's peak time, it's $60 to $80 each way. You can almost spend as much on Uber as your flight was, right? So you really need to make sure you add in all those kind of costs, because otherwise, like you'll get your check and you go to like do the math and you're like, oh man, I could just stayed at home and worked at a restaurant, it made more money. So like those kind of things are I think like super important.
Nice. All right. What advice, and this is actually a really appropriate question because you said you do some mentoring. What advice would you have for young DJs getting into the game, or I'd say I'm in my 4th year, so I'll say 1 to 4, 1 to 5 years in. What advice do you have for us?
I think that right now where the DJ game's at is, I think that a lot of the biggest mistake that I see with younger DJs is that they have like these completely unrealistic expectations of what the DJ world is and what they can expect from it, right? Like they think that they're good DJs and that's enough for them to go out and like headline EDC. But they don't understand that like all the steps that go into even being booked at a festival or being booked at like a main club or, those kind of things. So you really need to just like have realistic expectations and then set realistic goals, right? And then, one thing that I always try to harp on with younger DJs, and very few of them take this to heart, but is that you need to operate your DJ career like you would any other business. This is a business. This is a career, and you need to operate it as such and look at it like, if you go to take a business class, they're going to talk to you about marketing budgets, where are you getting your clients from? How are you maintaining those client relationships? How are you, how are you reaching new clients? Are you giving people that are potential buyers the easiest route and the best user experience with your brand, right? So if you're not part of your agency and they want to book you, what does that process look like? Do they go to your website? Does your website have direct links to your EPKs? Does your website even have a website? If you don't, do you have a Dropbox with your links? Like, these are all things that go a long way to clubs booking you and rebooking you. And the nightclub market is really small. So if you develop, a good user experience for these clubs, people hear about it. And it's one of the main things that has been helped me succeed, is that it's I make it really super, super easy every step of the way. It's easy to get my EPKs. It's easy to get my contracts. I'm super flexible. I'm not a diva. If something's wrong with the club, I'm not throwing a fit. I'm the first one to try to help the club out.
Right.
You need to just take all that stuff into account, because it's really, really important. And like I said, if you take a business class, this is all stuff that's just business 101. But a lot of younger DJs don't approach it that way. And it actually, a lot of nightclubs are corporations, and they have this approach, and this is what they want to see. So I feel like that's super important.
All right, y'all, there we have it. That's it for this episode on the Stoop with Suave. I want to thank my guest, DJ Ikon, giving us a whole lot of knowledge, a whole lot. I hope y'all had your pens and papers out, took notes. If not, rewind and listen again. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. This was super fun.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ Ikon.
Peace.